majored in theater and minored in computer science. Did I say I moved between worlds? I majored in theater and minored in computer science in college, and then went off and got a master's in acting from Columbia. So I was doing theater in New York, Broadway, off-Broadway, regionally, for basically 7 years in New York. And that's when I actually rediscovered my childhood love of anime, because there was a store down by NYU called Anime Crash, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, that sold anime on VHS. My God. And so I sort of rediscovered my love of anime, and a friend of mine at a theater festival caught me watching the show, and he's like, "Oh, do you like that Japanese stuff?" And I was eating dinner. I was like, "Yeah, shut up, I'm watching." And he put me in touch with a studio that was dubbing it in New York. And so I auditioned for them. They said, "Do you have a demo tape?" And I sent them a terrible demo tape. It was a radio theater play I had directed and starred in. It was like an Edgar Allan Poe story. And it was like 16, it was totally the wrong thing to send as a demo. Don't do that now. But I sent it in, and they called me in for audition, and I auditioned for the show called Slayers. I got a couple little bit parts on Slayers, and then they said, "Hey, we're recasting one of the main characters, Zelgadis." And I was like, "Oh, he's the blue guy with the rocks on his face, right? I like him." And so I came in, and I tried to actually voice match the actor who had gone before me. And during the audition, the director said, "What are you doing? What are you trying? What? Well, I'm trying to match him. Don't just do it your way." And I was like, "Oh, thank God. Okay, let me do it my way." And they cast me, and it just sort of took off from there.
Wow. So that was your first role with Slayers.
Yeah.
Well, what's your most memorable?
I think, for me, the most memorable role is probably Tsume from Wolf's Rain. Because I had been working in New York, and it was the Cowboy Bebop dub that really made me aware of the Los Angeles dubbing scene. And when I heard the Cowboy Bebop dub, I said, "That's it. That's the level I want to play at." I'd been trying to do that in New York and had been having some resistance. And so I thought, I need to come to LA and play with those people. And so I did, and unfortunately Bebop was over, so I didn't get to work on that. But luckily, Wolf's Rain came along, which was done by much of the same production studio, both in Japan and here in America. So I got to work with the same people on a story that was on the same sort of really high level of quality, and it had all this wonderful mythology in it too. So it was sort of a hat trick. It was a win-win-win for me on that show, and I'm probably proudest of some of my acting work on that show.
Cool. Now we're going to take some questions here in just a second. If you want to ask a question, I'm going to be able to take about 5 or 6. Just line up over there in front of Edward. Raise your hand, and he'll be able to help you. And I'll get to you in just a couple minutes. I just want to do that first. In terms of how long did it take, once you started to voice act, how long did it take before it became kind of a regular part of your life?
Well, it started off as something that I was doing on the side when I was doing theater. So I was doing regional theater and theater in New York, and then just to sort of support my anime habit, I would do some anime voice acting and then spend it on VHS tapes. But then after a while, it started to become more and more regular, and it became difficult because I would go out of town for a theater show, and then they'd have to try to schedule recording sessions around me. And then I realized I was really more passionate about the animation than I was about doing regional theater. And so I decided, well, if I'm going to pursue this, I need to go where it happens, with the sort of center of animation, which is Los Angeles. So when I came out to LA, that was sort of what I was committed to, and luckily I had done all this work in New York, so I walked into LA saying, "Yes, I do anime and I do it well. Here, check it out." And everyone went, "Oh, thank goodness, you're a good actor and you can match lip flap. Get in the booth." And so it happened very quickly once I got to LA, but that's because I had years of sort of preparation and proving myself in New York beforehand.
So it wasn't an over. I mean, the point I'm trying to get is there was a lot of preparation trying to get there.
I mean, I spent at least 4 years in New York working on dubs, and I worked on Slayers. That was the only show I worked on for a very long time. And then Utena showed up, and then Record of Lotus War, and I started doing more and more in New York. And by the time I left New York, I had 10 or 12 different shows under my belt, including one directing gig. So before I even came to Los Angeles, in Los Angeles nobody knew me, so I had to put together a video demo, which I believe is still on my website, of all my characters that I'd done in New York to say, "Look, I can act and I can match lip flap. You want to use me, right?" And luckily I made friends with a couple of people at some conventions, some industry people. And they said, "Yeah, sure, come on down." And even then, they miscast me the first couple of times, and there were certain shows that I got in that I was fired from. because I wasn't playing on the Los Angeles level. I was damn good for New York, but once I got to LA, everyone was playing, it was major leagues, and I wasn't quite up to speed yet. And people didn't quite know how to cast me yet. They weren't sure where I fit. And so I got uncast from 2 big shows, and it was really a heartbreak, first thing here in LA. And I thought, wow, I need to step up my game. And so from then on, I got better and better. And then at one point, I was working with Mary Elizabeth on a show, working on Digimon. And I said, and there was a character I had been trying to do and I couldn't do it. And I said, Mary Elizabeth, check this out. Hey, I can do that voice now. And she's like, why couldn't you do that 9 months ago when we needed it? I said, I wasn't up to speed yet. I wasn't good enough yet. Now I am.
So it takes time.
It does.
Let's take a question over here.
Hi, I just wanted to talk to you about voice talent agencies, and I'm in the middle of getting my demo CD done, and I was wondering, I'm from Augusta, Georgia, so I was wondering, should I send out my CD to like an agency like close by me, or just send it out to agencies like in Los Angeles or New York?
You're going to need to work with an agency who's nearby, because you need to develop a personal relationship with that agent, and the only way that's going to happen is face-to-face. And you also need to be available at all times. They need to be able to call you and say, oh my God, something just came up. If you can make it there by 4 p.m. this afternoon, you got it. And you have to be able to say, yes, I can. And then they're with you. If you're trying to do it from long distance and you're not already an established actor, they're just not going to, they don't have the time for you.
And also, would it be wise to send it while in college or after college?
Here's the thing about demos. It's good to send demos out to people to get feedback on them. It's good to, if you have a demo, to send it to people for casting and whatnot, because I'll tell you this, and maybe you can corroborate this, Tony. A casting person goes through a lot of demos. A lot of them are bad. Which ones do you think they remember? The good ones, because they're trying to get a job done. That's not really the way an agent thinks, because an agent wants to remember your name. So if you give a bad demo to an agent, or a demo that's not up to speed with the major leagues where you're playing, that agent's going to remember. And the next time you come and say, well, here's my new demo, trust me, it's better. The agent goes, you've already got them in a skeptical mindset, which is not great. So it's good to put your demo out to friends, to casting directors, to submit to auditions by yourself, absolutely. But you don't want to approach an agent with your demo until it's really competitive, because that agent wants to hear that demo and hear that you're on the same level as the rest of their clients. And if you're not on the same level as the rest of your clients, it's very hard for them to give you a second chance.
All right, good. One more question.